Welcome, one and all, to the Door Monster podcast. God damn it! What is it called? The Death of YouTube. This podcast.
See, that was shaping up to be like a really nice funeral eulogy speech. Welcome, one and all, to a very a moment, like a Rent moment, to the death of Bohemia. But we didn't get there.
But nope, I don't come prepared to any of these, and just dive in. So. Welcome to the Death of YouTube podcast. I'm Kyle. This is Ian.
Howdy.
We are two washed-up YouTubers who used to have a very popular YouTube channel that is sort of plateaued. I now do it by myself. That doesn't matter. We're back in time today.
We are.
In good old 2014, because we're going through and reviewing all of our old videos from when we first started doing them weekly. And we finally got to the first video released on a weekly schedule.
Yeah, we did. Look at that. It only took us 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes.
I think 5. I think this is episode 5.
This is we zero index them, so it's impossible to tell.
Episode 4. Why did I let you talk me into this?
This is just what I do to people. People think of me as the angel on your shoulder, but I'm literally only ever not even the devil. The devil has intention. I'm just the spinning
in between guy.
The spinning loading icon on your shoulder.
The clippy on my on my shoulder.
It looks like you're trying to format a PowerPoint. Sure amn't. Let's go.
Well, so this video, our first video, is Minecraft is Intense, and this was the first video that I started making on a weekly schedule right after we released the Door Monster video, which I mentioned at the end of the last episode. But in case you didn't listen to the last episode, basically in November of 2014, we put up this Halloween video, and it blew up. And I decided I had already been thinking at the start of the next year I was going to start doing weekly videos and see how it went for an entire year. But since Door Monster blew up, I decided to start it that day. Actually, I'm pretty sure we filmed the video. I edited it the next day. It got big on Reddit on that Sunday, and then the day after I went and started filming Minecraft is Intense.
Right, that checks out. I like how you provide all these. I'm still pitching this to the hypothetical audience of Jorgen, who is a man in a cell who only has a play next Death of YouTube button on his wall.
Well, actually, in the interest of trying to make it a little bit more widely accessible, I thought I'd give some context as to what was going on in the world at this time. According to onthisday.com, on November 10th, 2014...
Okay.
The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 premiered in London. Uptown Funk by Bruno Mars was released. And the number one song in America was Shake It Off by Taylor Swift, and maybe should have stayed that way and the world would have been a better place.
Well, see, and here we are, 78 years later, and 1989 Taylor's version is about to come out. And we're about to have Shake It Off again be it's going to be number one again, right? There's no way it's not. So...
Yeah, no, we're trapped in an infinite loop. That's why we're doing this podcast.
Oh, you're right, actually. Does this also mean if Mockingjay Part 1 just came out, right? That means does that mean that our acting, our true acting does not overlap with Philip Seymour Hoffman's at all, right?
That's a weird fact to have pointed out, but you're correct.
Just because I remember him being in the first Mockingjay, but not the second because he died in between, right?
Yeah, true.
But I'm not sure, did he make it to the premiere of the first one?
I did. I mean, you must not have, right? Because they were filming them both at the same time.
Yeah, they filmed them back to back, I guess, right? So
this is also me trying to remember what was going on at the time, so I'm not entirely sure. I also have the Wayback Machine pulled open for just the YouTube homepage at the time.
Oh, what's up?
Let's see. The popular right now list has The Hobbit Battle of the Five Armies official trailer.
Gross.
Also Girls Season 4 and Orphan Black Season 3. So those are obviously very well-known milestones that people will remember.
Not for good reasons. Was our video the best thing to happen to 2014?
At least November 10th, 2014.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's funny because you kept saying we did all this for the Door Monster video, but realistically, this is a completely solo Kyle video, right?
Yes, this is also when I started putting in a ton of work and then crediting it to a group that didn't actually do that much of the work.
Right. And that stayed consistent for 5 years, and until suddenly the balance of eventually we start making jokes about how you're the only one doing the work, and at that point we're now, I think by the time we start making jokes about it, we're doing about like 20% of the work. But at this point, this is like one of the most truly independently Kyle only videos in the entire catalog.
Yeah, this was actually it was a couple things. It was I needed something to start the process off with, and I had some animation scripts that I had planned on making, but I wasn't going to be animating anymore, so I just like recycled them into potentially easy live action stuff to do. This was one of them.
That makes a lot of sense.
This was the showcase of my maximum VFX abilities at the time. Between the last episode with all of those videos and this, we also filmed a movie.
Right. Yeah, we
the
did.
guards themselves had happened, so we had, I had already kind of started learning more effects stuff on that. So this was me just kind of trying all that out, all compositing, because I was still a long way off from trying any CGI at this point.
In between Zucchini and Rhubarb and now, right? My hair has developed a complete character arc of its own, having gone from the mighty Peshwa to being a central character, perhaps more so than Scott in the guards themselves. That's all I have to say about that.
I like that you just kind of talked that into existence. Like, I'm not even sure that was ever real.
Yeah.
But people now agree with you because you've just set it up enough.
I'm telling you, it's just the clippy on your shoulder. It doesn't. I will start off with, I think, unusually for this period of Door Monster, this video has, I would say, pretty good color grading.
Yeah, I think it's because I didn't touch it much.
That would make sense. Yeah, actually.
I just let the natural color of the shot be there. I kind of learned my lesson, and I think the only color grading that it actually happens in the video, because at the beginning it's all kind of dull and gray, and then I start screaming and it like saturates it, which is an interesting choice that I made. I'm not sure why I did that. There's also a lot of people have pointed out that like the deer in the background in the opening shot, like look at me when I start screaming, which is actually just a great little coincidence because I'm not actually yelling ever, like because this is on a golf course right behind my parents' house, so I never screamed because I didn't want to draw attention to myself. I'm just miming the yell, and then I just recorded me yelling as long as possible a few times later, and then like spliced them together into this really long scream.
You want to know something particularly stupid? I watched this entire video in prep for this with the closed captions on, like I was expecting something else.
All of the closed captions, just as a quick shout out, I think came from fans. I barely submitted any of them.
Well, they're so hard to do.
They are actually. Even now, I can have Adobe Premiere technically has a feature that can auto-generate captions, but it does a terrible job. So you have to go edit every single one of them.
This is our first video to get, currently speaking, in 2023, 1 million views.
Oh, nice. It did not get it at the time.
No, of course not. Yeah, I think actually it's because it's the first real sketch on the binge watching playlist.
Yeah, at this time it was pretty amazing. If videos got, I want to say, 2,000 or 3,000 in the first couple of weeks.
Well, because I remember in one ComCom years down the road here, maybe not years, because the time stretches out towards the infinite at this point. But like. It was a few, I don't know, like 10, 15 videos past A Bat by Any Other Man. A Bat by Any Other Man had not yet cracked 1,000 views, and that wasn't, like, disastrous at the time.
Actually, yeah, I'm probably exaggerating. There probably was only a few hundred views on this video when I released it.
I know, crack open those analytics, I don't know.
My scale is off. That's a good idea. I think I will do that, because I'm starting to remember, I think actually even with the release of Door Monster, we hit 1,000 subscribers. Like, that was also the first thing. Like, we'd had this YouTube channel for years covering all the videos that we've already covered on this podcast, and I think we just hit 1,000 subscribers right before this video came out.
Right. We didn't have a 1K week because we were too new, but it wasn't like we weren't like that too new. We had a big 10K week and we had a big 100K week.
Well, even in my mind, like at 1,000, it was like, oh, okay, now I've started. Like even at the time, it was like, this hasn't mattered up until this point.
Trailing back down a couple of these rabbit trails real quick. Looking at the closed captions, right? It is closed captioned in 11 languages.
Oh, I know. Oh, I forgot about that. Oh, I totally forgot. I love our fans so much. Yeah, no, they submitted. There's so many: Arabic, Chinese, Dutch, Estonian, French, German, Irish, Norwegian, Polish, and Turkish.
Yeah.
So, having checked it on the analytics, it looks like we got 1,700 views on the first day for this one, and then it went down to like below 100 for every day after that.
That's like really batting above average for the time period. We should check these on the next few videos just to kind of like, I don't know, there's got to be some like sabermetric baseball people out in the crowd who are like, but probably. What, Like
Well, it
one thing
also
that
just reminds me of things too, because like another thing we did this week was we started doing community comments on that Friday. I just decided to imitate what the YouTubers that I was watching were doing at the time because I didn't know how to run a YouTube channel necessarily, other than having observed from other people because there weren't like guides available. I imitated Freddie Wong a lot in terms of just like basic channel, like running your channel, because he would be very open about like how he went about doing things and like how they did their behind the scenes stuff, like their scheduling and their production methods. He had a lot of behind the scenes videos and he had podcasts that I listened to. Community comments I just took straight from 5-second films. Actually, that was something they did.
remind me again, what is the actual overlap on like Freddie W and 5 Second?
They all knew each other. There was them and Corridor were all almost the same group. They were just individuals that all worked together, but like several of them had like gone to film school together or had jobs or something where they worked together.
Right, okay. I've always loved 5 Second films because it exemplifies one of my very favorite elements of writing. Mark Rosewater is the lead designer for Magic the Gathering, but he's also got a really long-standing career in writing. He wrote for Roseanne.
Oh.
But he always says that restrictions breed creativity.
Yeah, that was always a big thing that I tried to like embody also.
Right, and I think 5 Second films is probably like the purest form of that. Just like literally like the atomic purity form of restrictions breeding creativity. Like we have 5 seconds, we can get 2 scenes, maybe 3 if we're dumb, and and they made it work every single time.
Yeah, and I really that spirit was really inspiring between them and Freddie Wong. They all had this very like get the product made as quickly as possible. Freddie Wong had a whole thing on a podcast that I listened to where he talked about like his understanding of like the rule of diminishing returns. His whole point being like the smallest amount of work that you do at the beginning is going to cover like 80% of the finished product. Right? It's like you shoot something and you have the footage. You put together a rough edit, you can watch it. You throw in some basic audio editing and you're good, right? And then everything else after that is nitpicking. And it's helpful nitpicking. It adds that level of polish, but like the more time you put into it, the less time you progressively get out of it, and you have to know when to draw the line.
When to call it,
I was very bad at the time.
Right. Well, I think like one thing that we get better at actually, I would say we get better and worse at in waves, honestly, is like you have to pick your polish. Because there are some elements that I think are non-negotiable in a quote-unquote door monster, capital D, capital M, TM video. Copyright, I guess. We never got
we certainly did not get it trademarked because we were blocked by Monster Energy Drink.
Right. I'm presuming that in the podcast you're going to edit out with just a large satanic growl so we don't get sued. But it's pretty evident when you think about it. But yeah, no, like a non-negotiables, like I think editing pace. That's something you put I don't know, I presume you put a lot of polish into it. Like I've mentioned before, I certainly wasn't around for the editing, but it's always so tight and specific that I feel like that's something you put extra time into.
I had to learn how to divide up the time. That really, I think, was the best thing that I learned from this. This whole thing was an experiment at the beginning, and it was one the whole time. Like it stayed one and really paid off as one because I knew that I needed to be able to release a higher quantity. So I had to make that rule where I was like, just taking a page from Freddie Wong's book, I was like, videos going up on Monday, doesn't matter what state it's in. So if I want it to be good, I better make sure that it's as good as it can be, and I have to spend as much time on it as I can to make sure that happens, but also I have to acknowledge the fact that there is finite time, and so I have to pick which corners to cut, because I'm not going to be able to perfect it. And I spent way more time on, let's say, this video than I did on future ones, because this one was all about, like, I gave myself the week. I was like, I want to spend a lot of time on these effects, but I still want it up next Monday, so I'm going to start. So I filmed it, a week early and spent 7 days working on the effects for this one.
And I think it pays off because starting now, we don't actually miss a week for a long time.
It takes a while, yeah. And
like
when
I think we get a full year, right? Like
maybe. I don't think. I think at the end of the first year I had all but 3 weeks or something, and those 3 weeks were either due to complete emergencies or they had actually just been like we replaced it with something else somehow. Even if I hadn't managed to get something up. I learned more from this year of video production than I did in my 3 years of film school previously, just because I made so much stuff. It was really just my first understanding that, like, oh, this is just a much faster way of learning how to do this stuff, is just doing it to the best of your ability and messing it up and then trying it again later. And I wasn't always happy
Yeah.
with the videos, but I always had this ability to, like, I put it up and maybe it got 1,700 views and that didn't feel like enough, but I was always able to be like, okay, well, I can't focus on that because I have to reset my sights on the new one on the next week.
This overlaps with my my actual profession, which is stupid. We say this all the time about language learning. Classroom learning is by far the least effective and the longest method to actually learning a language.
Yeah.
The best way is just like you just plop somebody down in Spain with like a guidebook of I have no money, please let me eat, and where should I pee? And like, and other than that, like you just kind of let them go, and like they will by the end of 6 weeks know more than 6 months of classroom Spanish.
Right.
This is a problem with my language because if you plop somebody down in the middle of Vatican City, like all they're gonna learn is like 3 stock prayers, and I'm pretty sure that's it in Latin. But you know,
Yeah, true. You really only have the one option for Latin, don't you?
right. But that's beside the point. The point is, yeah, immersion, constantly letting yourself make mistakes, letting yourself learn from mistakes, and then I think nursing a little grudge that you made a mistake so that you have a roaring vengeance to correct it the next time is what helps you learn.
Honestly, yeah, I do think that was part of it. I had to just sort of accept that, like, okay, I'm not going to have everybody here every single week. And I had scheduled with you at this point to come over and film some stuff on the next Saturday. I actually shot this entire video by myself, too.
That makes sense, yeah.
No one else is out there. It's just camera on tripod pointed at me, and I don't know how I focused the shot.
Well, so I was going to think, like, most of them are so far away that you have infinite focus going.
Yeah, probably.
That's like most of them. You're just not like you're in the you set focus to the background and you go. The question. So this is November, right?
Yeah.
Which means it is a nice chilly 80 degrees out.
Probably.
Because I'll say, like, so speaking of like the color grading, the one thing that really sells this video more than anything is you have a perfect Steve Blue shirt.
I did. I found that at Hobby Lobby. That was my first in-character
Hobby Lobby. All right.
They have all the solid color T-shirts.
Nice. Good to know.
Yeah, no, this was my first. This was my first dress up. That was also kind of a fun thing about this is that I just got to wear costumes all the time. I just got to dress up as a bunch of different characters.
Here's an off-topic sort of question. There's a huge gap between finishing the guards themselves and finishing the guards themselves, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do we have a completed edit at this point?
No. The guards themselves have been shot and had a rough cut finish. But yeah, no, you're right. There are 2 finished to the guards themselves milestones. And the second one is not until 2015 when I actually spend like 2 straight months doing all of the post work.
I was remembering because I was looking at the end and I was like, yes, the fire. Eventually you get to generating fire effects. My recollection of it is you saying that it's basically just glowy smoke.
Yeah,
usually.
So here's a secret. I still have not gotten to generating fire effects.
Nice, awesome, cool, okay, cool.
I kind of have tried, and it was a mistake that I chose not to repeat later because it's actually really hard to do.
Just generally talking about the effects here, the one that sticks out the most to me is breaking away this wall from the garage.
Yeah, that was actually a stock effect too. They had this like fake gray pre-generated wall. So I actually got this shot to match the one that I had so that the angle was correct. Genuinely was like this old, like they had made it in the 3D modeling software and had done the simulation and everything, and you just had that video footage and it was gray, so you could set it to overlay to match whatever you were putting it on. So this is just my garage door open, and I faked that wall in Photoshop, I think, and then I put the crack effect on it. It doesn't look real. It sells the point, I guess.
Well, and also, to be fair, we're emulating what is effectively fake 16-bit.
Right. There was a lot of making an excuse for how the effects look. I definitely tried to sort of use the context to be kind to myself in terms of how much work I actually had to put in.
And we will get back to that eventually with our first No Man's Sky video, I remember, actually.
Oh, yeah. My favorite version of this now is just make it look like an old 80s TV show, because then you can get away with anything.
And we actually do that several times throughout our catalog.
To the point where I'm not done. I fully plan. I have a whole Magic the Gathering short film, at least, that I want to do that is purely imitating like old 80s fantasy. Partially because I love that look and the feel of that so much. And it's actually another reason why I do really like doing like complicated effects and stuff, but there's something about like having to work around the tools that you have that is just always enjoyable.
There is nothing I love more in just in life in general. I mean, throwing into a situation with subpar tools and just being able to exercise the willpower and brain power to make it work.
Right.
And I think
as long as there's no actual stakes, that's where my
true.
brain draws the line.
If there are actual stakes, I'm sitting on the floor crying, calling my mom or whatever. Like it's
right.
But in ways where it completely doesn't matter, like say the work you do for a living, but I don't. I don't know. I just love that exercise of brain power, and I really think that filmmaking is probably like the premier way to do this in the world.
I think my favorite example of it in this video is the sheep punch. That's still probably one of my favorite effects ever, and will continue to be, even though it's not like one of my best ones technically, because it's just this.
Sure.
This whole this weird combination of it's a base plate of me just punching the air, and then I got like a shot of a stock footage shot of a sheep that looked like it could be standing roughly in the same place, and then I got just like 2 bags of stuffing, also from Hobby Lobby probably, and just threw it up into the air for another shot and let it fall to the ground, and then combined it all, like was able to like go in and just kind of like tweak it all so that it looks like I punched the sheep away and then all of its wool stays put and then falls onto the ground.
A couple of small notes here. First off, I have this paused on like a still frame of the sheep before you punch it, and you can kind of see some like I maybe this is just my bad filmmaking expertise like filtering in, but it looks like there's green filtering up onto the left side of the sheep, which makes me think, did they just like bring a sheep onto a green screen to film this?
No, because I'm actually looking at the original footage right now. There's a VFX breakdown video that I'll also link in the description of this one if you want to see more of it. But it's just standing on some grass. It could just be reflecting from the environment around it. Like I couldn't see color well enough and still can't to confirm if any of the lighting matched.
Right. Secondly, speaking of matching, have you ever seen a sheep before, or do you know that you are about 4'4" in this shot?
I needed the punch to land in the right place.
This is like a small cow-sized sheep.
It might be accurate to Minecraft though. I don't know. I've thrown.
You're right. Actually,
like if you go into genuinely though, if you go into Minecraft in VR, everything is so much bigger than you think it is.
Well, that's because they're instead of feet, right? We have 1 unit of measurement, and that is a block, right?
Right.
Things are either 1 or 2 blocks high,
which I think is equivalent to like a meter in real life or something.
Right. So it's roughly 3 feet. Like
yeah,
the punch does land. So you were right. This is the right call.
Yeah, that's just one of those fun quirks of like making the effect work. And this one has a lot of stuff like that because I was just using anything at my disposal. At the end of the day, it needed to look. It just needed to be what I wanted it to be. I think other highlights are swimming up the waterfall usually gets a shout out in the comments.
Right. It gives you like a little graph of where people are most watching, right?
Oh yeah.
And like it definitely you can see the peaks rising during the waterfall.
Really?
People that means that people had to have come back to watch the waterfall scene.
I think they did. That seems to be everybody's favorite one. They maybe even have like gifted it and put it around the internet somewhere. That one was fun because it was just green screen. That was just good green screen work of me like laying on something and pretending I was swimming. The tree growing is pretty janky and probably my least favorite shot, but it was like the punchline as I had written it in, and I just needed it to be in there. So
I actually really like the jankiness of the tree growing because it sort of represents, going back to this, if we just pretend it's a fake 64-bit, 16-bit, whatever video. Like this is not dissimilar from how stupid trees stupid grow in stupid Minecraft. This is like the crowning achievement of somebody who never plans to do another VFX in their life.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
And I love it for that, especially because I don't know, like everything about it's just like a little wrong. Like you are now actually the size of like a large squirrel.
Yeah, I did not pay any attention to like size or anything. There's so many things.
I think it all makes it. The tree is actually color graded in perfectly.
Oh, huh.
It's a different color than the foreground and background trees, but it should be because of the way the lighting is. So I think it's a perfect fit.
At some point, I learned a trick from Corridor. Way back when. They probably don't even use it anymore, but it was you could basically turn everything to grayscale and then go into each color channel and make it match to your eyes in grayscale, and then when you switched it back to color it would match, because like the way that it visually represented that color spectrum in grayscale helped you like accurately match it up. So that was my cheat for a while, and it's not perfect because it would still come out weird sometimes. But I do think I hit some sort of equilibrium around this time using that trick where it was like, okay, that's not technically completely wrong. at least not
this
green or whatever.
This reminds me of one of my favorite anecdotes from your life that I was happen to be there for, which was hanging around the Art Institute, which, by the way, I did a lot for somebody who had no reason to be there, talking to the color editor for the guards themselves. He was like dragging the dot around to different parts of the color wheel and demanding that you tell him what color it was.
Yeah, people are always very amused by the fact that I can't see color, which I've never entirely understood why that's so entertaining.
It's so much more of a boring disability than my version of it, which is being tone deaf. Because I relate to your colorblindness with my tone deafness because they're basically the same thing with different face organs.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Very rarely does like your performance aspects of color are like drawing stuff, but you're also talented at drawing. So like when you color a fireman's coat ultra radioactive green instead of yellow, everybody's like, that's a weird color for a coat, but my God, his line work is amazing. But when I impressively fail to hit every note of firework in exactly the wrong way, so much that like a 4-year-old should be able to get some of it on accident, it's so much more entertaining for people. I should be made fun of more, and you should be made fun of less. I don't know why.
We really just haven't showcased your singing at all. My color just kind of became
right.
noticed because it was a part of the video work.
Actually, though, those who shall not be named, that is to say, Ricky Lynn. There's several times when he makes me sing at the end of There's Rules for That. And there's one Door Monster video where I was, for some cruel reason, asked to sing, but I believe your better demons took over and you didn't use my voice track.
That's right. When I had everybody do genuinely, I think that was the first time that I truly understood the depths of you not being able to sing. It was it was the Crusader Kings video, the musical that I did, and I was like, I'm going to have a chorus of people in the background just doing this one simple melody, and I'll put them all together, and it'll be fine.
I just can't.
It doesn't matter who is doing it, because none of them will be audible among the other ones. But then, yeah, no, I have a 10-minute long file of you just not managing to hit the notes.
It's not only, it's the interaction of being able to hit notes, and rhythm I'm actually pretty good at usually, but I couldn't hit the rhythm either because I was trying. But what's frustrating is I'm not going to say I'm good at it, but I can kind of hit the actual King song in Hamilton.
Oh, really?
Your version's harder. Anyways, back to the point. You were flummoxing Gary because you were calling out the correct colors. But only because you knew where each color was supposed to be on the color wheel.
Oh yeah. No, I by this point had learned generally where in the color spectrum, in the visualized color spectrum on Adobe software, each color was.
And it made him so mad, and I love that because you were stone faced. You were not giving up the game. I love that.
We'll have to. I don't know if this is interesting for a podcast as it involves visuals, but there are images that Allison has pulled up where like it will correct the image to show normal people what things look like to people with color blindness, and when I see them, I can't tell the difference between those and the originals. But the weird part is I can tell you what colors they're supposed to be. Allison can show me just the picture that's wrong, where she can't tell what colors they are because the colors are wrong, and I can point to it and say, that's yellow, and it isn't. But then if she pulls open the original photo, it is yellow. It's
supposed
in that
to be
one.
yellow. Yeah.
Like my brain has somehow compensated for it, so I don't know. It's weird.
Right. Which colorblind are you? Do you know that?
I don't remember the name of it. I always forget.
Yeah, okay. They all have
one
stupid
of the
names.
red, green ones. It's the most common one.
That has nothing to do with Minecraft is intense. Sorry.
That's okay.
I do want to point out before we get too late in is how important Minecraft was at the time, but in a different way than now.
Yeah, we had just passed that era in my memory. Like you and I and our other friends spent a lot of time on Minecraft in its early alpha days because it was our way of hanging out outside of all being in separate places. That was kind of what we did back when I played video games every day. We had a whole Minecraft server and a whole world that we had built, and that's how we spent time together. But then I didn't make a Minecraft video for years afterwards, to the point where at the time it was like, well, Minecraft's irrelevant now, and obviously that was not true because it never became irrelevant.
It had a weird dip, though, I think.
It did. That's a good point.
I think we really, honestly, became real friends over Minecraft. Probably.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. A lot of my early memories of you probably take place in a fictional world.
Right, and that's great. It's like, because it's that makes it as real to me as anything else.
Yeah.
But then there's like a dip where I don't know, only Yogscast is doing Minecraft because only Yogscast is smart.
Right.
But smart in a stupid way.
They were the ones doing the Minecraft content first. And I don't know. I always watched their videos, but I never like wanted to do those kinds of videos. But we were playing around for a while with like different types of content that wasn't sketches because we started this up. So true to form, we made a Minecraft video during the one weird dry spell where people weren't that into Minecraft.
Absolutely, we did.
So
Yep.
go us. But also, I finally started this up just slightly too late. This is kind of where like our whole conflict with YouTube's preferred type of video started. Is I finally started doing these weekly comedy sketches at the end of 2014, and that length of video and that style of video had already started being pushed out about a year earlier, I'd say.
Yeah.
In favor of things like Yogscast's 20-minute gameplay videos, and the gameplay style had really started taking off around the time that we started posting these. YouTube preferred videos that were 20 minutes long, so people would do these really long like gameplay sessions, and then they would cut them up into shorter videos, and they would release long videos every day, and that was how you blew up in views. And we did the opposite of that. So
as usual, yeah.
It doesn't bother me as much now. At the time it did. I was always really annoyed that the thing I wanted to do didn't align with the thing that was paying off. It was always kind of frustrating to me, and I never really knew how to deal with it, but I never wanted to... I guess I made a decision. I was always... I probably shouldn't have been like continuously frustrated because I chose which one I wanted. I chose to do the thing that we wanted to make and not do the thing that was going to keep making us money. But it definitely always sat in the back of my mind like a little bit annoyed until very recently. Honestly, have I only started like feeling okay about that and like I made the correct decisions. I guess I always doubted the decision that I had made is the main thing. I was never sure.
I'm so glad that you've reached a better place of healing and mental health with that. Because can you imagine the alternative where you dedicate an entire podcast and name it something bitter and accurate about how YouTube has failed you as a platform? That would be an awful future.
Well, you know, I can do it now because it's a joke, right? Because it's funny. It doesn't hurt anymore. So
no, of course.
That's why you can. Yeah. That's why you can.
Remember, I am actually very glad that you've reached that place. That's good.
Yeah.
Because I think all the time, like I have always been in your camp of do the thing that you love instead of the thing that makes me money. So
yeah, I had a lot of influences that kind of led me into making these paladin-esque decisions, often against my own comfort, even like
Freddie W. I presume like Bill Watterson and Calvin and Hobbes, who you've mentioned before, as part of your foundational aspect of anti-consumptive influence.
It's his fault. He did this to me.
And it's sort of like this does fall into the camp of like Bo Burnham has a great interview where he talks about like don't take advice on luck in following your dreams from Taylor Swift. It worked for her,
right?
And you did just that, and I'm glad that you did.
Because I there were points where I could have made different decisions. Like we're gonna get to the Civ videos. Like the technically smart decision early on would have been, at the very least, to just keep making Civ videos. Like to just dry up that well and then move on. I've always had trouble living in the moment, so even making these, I was looking into this future where we would be going back and looking at these old videos. So hi me, but I spaced stuff out. Like even next week we're gonna get to the Sims videos, and we batch recorded those, and I released them every other week rather than all at once because I thought it would be. I was picturing people paying close attention to the channel and watching every single week as they came out, as if it was like I treated it like an episodic TV show. That's what it was. I didn't treat it like a YouTube channel because I didn't understand that tactic of just pure quantity at the time, which turns out is the money-making tactic when it comes to capitalism or anything within this field.
I really think actually that when it comes to specifically to these sim videos, this is getting in the next video, but I think you were exactly right to do that, and I'll talk more about that next time. I think at times episodic, like treating it like an episodic content is important at very specific stages of our development, and that includes right now with this being our first weekly video.
Well, and that's, at the time, that's what I wanted. And it still is, I guess. I guess that's the thing. I went through a period of, like, wondering if I had made the right calls. But looking back on it even now, the thing that I wanted at the time was actually exactly what I got. Like, we created the situation that I wanted to create, which was we developed a very dedicated fan base that is still listening to this podcast right now. Hello, Backdoor.
Right.
And I don't know why that was the first name that came to mind, but they're all there.
Yeah.
And we like it worked because at the end of this year we made a finale video that people watched and they were like, I understood all of that because I watched everything in order in real time as it came out, and we got to hide DoodleCon in the background of the videos, and we got to do all these like fun things that the platform allowed for. I guess that was the fun thing. I had watched people take advantage of and have fun with this platform in 2010, and I wanted to do that. YouTube feels like a mockery at this point, which is why we made the podcast this. But, you know, it's the death of YouTube because it was something that felt alive at a certain point. Like, YouTube was the coolest shit at one point. It was so cool that this thing existed where you could publish this fictional world of your own, and then it could even interact with other people's by like having guest appearances onto your videos. Like it was just free roam television to me. I guess that's what it was. It felt like you could just go on and make your own show, and that's what I wanted to do, and that's what we did, and it worked. So,
and that's not unlike Minecraft, actually. Man, I'm good. Okay.
So I was thinking we could close these episodes out by revisiting some of the comments.
Absolutely. I was actually thinking the same thing.
Oh, good. I don't know if we'll stick to it, but I figured we could start. Right. I'm just looking at the first comment, the top comment that is currently on this page, which is from 8 years ago, about when it first came out, from Green Lantern 8248, and he says, "Really cool. Glad you guys are sharing your talent with us. Keep it up, White Lightning," which reminds me that we weren't Door Monster yet.
Right, I haven't been mentioning it, but no, we're not Door Monster for like, geez, ever. I don't know.
Not until 2016, actually. This is a White Lightning HQ production at the time.
Gross.
Which, I guess we can talk about that later.
Yeah, that's fine.
It's too late in the podcast to explain what that was. Thank you all for listening. If you've been enjoying listening to these podcasts, you can go to patreon.com/doormonster and you can support us making these and continuing to make videos on the main channel. I guess that's pretty much it.
That's it. So we will see you next week. Bye-bye.